Welcome to the Manifestation and Money podcast, where we bridge the worlds of the taboo topic of money with the woo-woo world of manifestation. We're your hosts, Chris and Jenni Schultz.
We're not just about dollars and cents around here. We're all about lifestyle design. You can be working towards financial independence while still living a life you love today.
Get ready for insightful conversations with guests who have embraced the FIRE movement by achieving financial independence and retiring early, as well as entrepreneurs and individuals who defied the norm and have paved their own way to a life they love.
Together, we'll explore the powerful connection between mindset, financial freedom, and living a purposeful life. And of course, we'll be sharing our own journey to how we carved our path to a seven-figure net worth before hitting the big 4-0. Are you ready to ignite your financial future? Then let's dive right in.
Welcome to the Manifestation and Money podcast, where your journey to financial independence and the life you love begins now.
Authentic, determined, and passionate. My guest on the show today is all of that. Alexandra Taketa is also a money manifesting guru and founder of the Money Mastery Academy. If you're looking for a beautiful, rich, abundant life and business, then this is the episode for you. Welcome to the Manifestation and Money podcast, Alexandra.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here, Jenni.
I am so excited to have you. So can you please share with the listeners a bit about who you are and what your story is?
Sure. I'm Alexandra Taketa, and I'm a money mindset abundance mentor coach. I work with a lot of female entrepreneurs who are CEOs, building businesses, growing themselves. And I'm also the founder of a course and a program called Money Mastery Academy. That really is something that's near and dear to my heart because it's something that was inspired through my own journey of going from broke to abundant and really, creating a really beautiful and abundant life for myself. I teach a lot of the concepts that I had to learn and had to journey through personally in order to grow myself, to heal my relationship with money, and to become a better receiver of abundance. And I always love to share that I'm still in the work. It's not like I've completed it and done it. I'm still a student of my own work. And I think that's important for people to know because I'm always sharing, what's the real story right now and what are the pieces that I'm going through, because it's work that evolves, right? We never get it done, but we can make a lot of progress. We can get to a beautiful place. And then there's always an expansion just because that's the human journey. So yeah, that's what I do. I'm a coach, I'm a mentor around abundance and money mindset mostly. And then I have a handful of clients that I work with on really expanding their businesses as well.
Nice. And I love that you shared that you are a student of your work because that is life. I think we go into life expecting we're going to grow up, become adults, and then we're just going to get it. We're going to figure it out, and that's just going to be that. But I always like to say life is like a roller coaster. You could be at the top of a peak, like you said, and you could just go shooting off in some different direction to some different place. It's not always better, but into a different place. And then you just have to adapt and grow from that spot and move from that spot. You're not just on like some plateau once you become an adult and you just figure it out and that's just where you sit. Life is always about growth and expansion or contraction, I guess.
I agree. And sometimes it's I'm really grateful. I mean, I've had a lot of contrasting experiences, right? Like I've had a lot of pain and frustration and things that have happened or struggle in my life as well. But I'm really grateful for that because there were lessons that I needed to learn. And I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have ended up in the spot that I am had I not had those experiences, because so much of, I don't know, the way I think of it is sort of like, how would we discern what we really want unless we got a little bit of what we don't want, right? Sometimes it's just that clarity that inspires or sparks the new desire that allows us to go, oh, okay, this is it, right? I need to be more discerning about how I'm focusing my energy or the boundaries that I have or how I'm using my time or making sure I'm really focused on what's going to help my gifts flourish. And this isn't quite it. I need to tweak and then go here, right? So yeah, I feel like all the experiences, if we're open to it, like you said, if we're a student of life, then and we can actually harvest the lesson and use it to launch us to what's next.
Definitely. And for you, what were some of the pieces of your story that led you into the path that you're currently on?
Yeah, I mean, I've been in this work for over 30 years, or maybe like 25, I guess. If I'm thinking back, I mean, it was mid 20s when I started this work. I'm 50 now. The work really started because I realized that the relationship that I had with money was pretty much non-existent, or if I did have one, it was super unhealthy. And I was in this place of giving all my time, my work, my energy away for free and discounting and making no money. And I had a tremendous amount of judgment and heavy energy and funky energy and baggage around money and how I thought about money, how I thought about people with money, how I thought about my ability to feel, trust myself with money, all the things. And one afternoon, when I was doing my taxes, and I realized, oh my goodness, like I've made no money, but I have worked like 40 to 70 hours a week. What is going on? And that was really the first like shift for me where I thought, I'm actually doing a lot. So why am I not receiving equitable amount for that effort? And that's really when a desire was sparked in me to like kind of figure that out. But I didn't realize at that point that I was the cause, that I was actually responsible for my situation. I didn't realize that I had a lot of thoughts, I had belief sets, I had perspectives, I had ways of being, habits, patterns that were keeping me stuck and limited and in the belief that there's never enough. And, everything is scarce and limited kind of way of being. And so it's about a month or two later, actually, I was dating my now husband, then boyfriend, and he gave me a freshwater pearl necklace a month into our relationship. And I had a hard time receiving that gift, despite the fact that I really wanted to receive it. I was not used to that kind of unbridled love and adoration, right? And being expressed so directly to me. And there's Gay Hendricks talks about a theory called the upper limit, right? Where we bump against these sort of invisible ceilings or limits, right? When we go past our comfort zone. And so what happens is we like boomerang back to our default setting, right? Which for me was like limited, scarce, I'm not worthy beliefs. And so that demonstration of love was like an upper limit kind of situation for me. And so I went back that night and I thought, well, like, what the heck? Like, I actually think I'm starting to love this person and this is such a beautiful gift. And why can I not figure out how to say thank you? And I received, this is amazing, right? And I sat with myself and just got really quiet and kind of processed through it. I heard my own, inner voice tell me, like, you don't actually think you're worthy. And you don't think that you even deserve expensive things. You don't think that you're even worthy of this kind of love. But if you decided to be, are you willing? If you decide that you are, all of this can be yours. You are worthy. That is the truth, right? That's what I heard. And I remember just feeling this overwhelming flood of like affirmation and peace fill my body. Like, oh, yes, this is right. This is the actual truth. And in that moment of like feeling so held and loved by what I call God, I realized that I could actually choose that by not seeing myself that way, by not holding myself that way, it was about so much more than money. It was really about allowing the floodgates of God's abundance, like of this sort of promise of this beautiful, abundant life that could be mine, right? I could allow that. Mm-hmm. And that I really had to do this work because my life depended on it. I wasn't even going to allow in love or happiness or joy or purpose or let alone the income. I wasn't going to allow any of that in unless I dealt with this relationship with money and abundance that I had that was completely unhealthy at that point.
Interesting how your money or your limiting belief on money and attraction, and you had to work hard for it. So you get a gift and then don't know how to say thank you to that. And then that's spiraling into your now relationship of not knowing how to step fully into that relationship. And then you're limiting what I'm sure your boyfriend, now husband, was expecting as a certain response from it.
Oh, yeah.
A gracious thank you. And you're like, oh, I don't know if I can handle this. So your limiting beliefs around abundance and money were filtering into other areas of your life.
Completely. And I think they do for most people. I mean, I really do think they do for most people. And I think we are probably lying to ourselves if we don't think they do. Oftentimes, our relationship with money is so entangled with our relationship with abundance and are not allowing ourselves to receive, whether it's full health, whether it's lots of women like living at the weight that they want to live at, or carrying extra pounds on their body and they start to lose the weight, but then they get to a point where they're like, oh, can't lose anymore, too scared to do that, or they boomerang back to their other default. It could be not allowing themselves to have the kinds of friendships, giving themselves this kind of time that they want, being and staying stuck in bad relationships, all the things. Like it's all very related because it's about our willingness to receive at the end of the day and really believe that we are worthy, completely worthy and deserving of the things that we desire in our life, not because we have to earn it or we have to prove that we're good enough, but because we inherently are worthy.
So how do you make yourself believe that?
That's a really good question. For me, it looked like starting with the money work because that was very tangible and practical, and I could see the shifts very quickly. But even within that first gift, when I was given it, I was just my first commitment. I committed, like, I am doing this because my life depends on it. The first thing I had to do was just be super vulnerable and confess like what had happened. So that's what I did. I just confessed what was going on for me. And I just said, hey, like I need to learn how to be a better receiver. And will you help me? Mm-hmm. And I asked for help, which was hugely brave for me at that point. And I will say it's probably hugely brave for a lot of people who are listening in. There's so many of us who still don't ask for help. We think that we're going to get like accolades and praise because we're so independent and we can do it on our own. But in reality, we're like over functioning and stressed out and maxed out. So that was the first step, just asking for help. And he said yes, miraculously. Thank goodness, because we've created an amazing, beautiful life together. And we've got a beautiful love story that's continued on here for 25 years. So that was the first piece. And then really just digging into what were all the ways that I held myself back? What were the stories that I had going on that were unhelpful? And where did they come from? And were they even true? And then gradually doing the work to be aware of them so that I could then start to think differently, act differently, feel differently in my body about things.
Yeah, you said in there your beliefs and then asking yourself, are they even true? Isn't that an interesting thing? You could be hanging on to somebody else's belief that you've just adopted as your own. And when you start questioning it, you're like, wait a second, who says that I have to do it this way or believe this belief?
And it was amazing. I look at some of the beliefs that I held and I find them laughable. I'm like, how did I even ever think that? I held it as intense truth. And now I think, oh my goodness, I'm that person that I used to really like judge and criticize. And yet I'm still the good, same generous, loving person. Nothing shifted, but my perspective about it and how I identify that shifted.
Wow. And I'm sure you see now working with clients and their limiting beliefs pop up, and you can probably see a lot of them before they even recognize that they personally have those limiting beliefs.
For sure. And it's also funny to me because people come to me and they say, even today, I had a woman on my DMs in my Instagram saying, oh my goodness, I'm so excited. I just joined your community. Yes, I would love this. Here's what I'm dealing with. I think I need to like really work on my pricing. She happens to be a photographer. And she's like, but even as I'm writing that, I'm wondering if that's really the case because I actually make a lot of money, but then I seem to get all these crazy bills that show up and take all my money away. Right. Which is they're really common sabotage, right? It's like you get to that certain level and then it's like something starts to happen that like takes you back down to that, whatever that abundance thermostat set point is for you. And it was funny as she was writing on, she was like, maybe it's really a worthiness issue. I mean, this was like a little paragraph that she was writing me inside of a DM. And I was reading it going, probably not your pricing. And then she's sort of outlining it as she went on. And I thought, yeah, it probably is like a general worthiness thing, or there's like an acclimatizing that needs to happen. Or maybe there's a belief set in there that if I have too much money, there's going to be problems. Or people who have too much money. I've had clients they grew up with parents who always fought about money. So they associated having a lot of money with fighting. So I was like, oh, don't want too much money because I don't want to be fighting. There's all sorts of ways, and it's really unique to each person. So it's more about like, what's your story? Because it's going to be unique for you. And then, like you said, unearthing it. Is it true? Where did it come from? Is that even your story, or is that your dad's story? And you're like making stuff up about your dad's story.
Right, because it's your interpretation of it. And often I've heard from previous guests that these beliefs and stuff are so hinged into us at such a young age that they're just part of us. Then we're making our own stories up on top of them and selling it to ourselves as truth.
And they come from all sorts of things. They come from the way I always say to people, there's a couple good questions you can ask yourself. Like, how did your experience growing up feel? Did it feel really expanded? Did it feel full of joy and possibility? Did you feel like when it came to the topic of money, there was a lot of really positive words and actions and it felt really expansive? Or did it feel really contracted? Like there's not enough. Things are tight. There's a heavy, stressed out energy. There's like an undercurrent of anxiety. Maybe there's judgment or criticalness, or right, any of those things. I know I can speak from my own experience. There was a mixture of both, right? I had a really loving, rich, beautiful childhood with lots of experiences, lots of love. My creativity was nourished. But when it came to money, that was a very different feeling. That was tight, that was constricted. There was a lot of stress. There was a lot of arguing between my mom and dad that were divorced at a young age. There was a lot of, there's not enough. We can't afford that. They've got it, we don't. There was a lot of that. And so it's sort of like that environment. So it's not just like what your parents say and do, but it's also like the energy. And how did you interpret that? How did you feel in that environment? So it's the emotions, it's the feelings, it's the things that people said or did. Maybe there was a traumatic situation that happened. How did you then take that energy on? All of that kind of starts to encode inside of us a certain perspective or identity around how we interact and what our relationship with money is. And it can be different even between siblings in a home, right? The way that my sister interpreted things is really different than the way that I felt about them.
Right. And then you grew up from that point too, probably having different outlooks on the world and different ways that you both received money and abundance into your own lives, I'm assuming.
Yes. Yeah. And I always feel like I think why I'm so passionate about it is that I feel like God's promise was one to live a beautiful, abundant life. And there's no way for us to be the best version of ourselves, right? The fullest self-expression, the most generous, most loving, most giving, purposeful version of us if we have financial static on the line.
Right.
If we've got like this limitation hindering us from moving forward.
Right. Because in order to give more, you have to have from a place of having more. But if you have that belief that you shouldn't allow yourself to have more, then it's hard to give more from a place of lack, from an empty bucket.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter if it's giving money or giving your energy and time or your joy.
Yeah.
If you've got an edge of anxiety and that sort of interference, it's like, it's hard to give. There's not a clear channel.
Yeah, exactly. So if somebody's listening and they go, oh, like, I just know I feel a disconnect from where I am to where I want to be. What are some first steps? Because you said it's kind of different for everybody what their stories are, but what are some like first things somebody could do to kind of start sifting through?
Well, the first thing I would say is get some clarity around what it is that you actually want and do a journaling exercise around what is it that I really want, because that's the first place that I take people in my money mastery course is getting clarity. And you would be amazed by how many people say, I don't know, or they're afraid to speak it out. They're afraid to write it out. They're afraid to be honest about it. They want to put limitations around it or give like, well, I'll have this if I do this, like sort of parameters around how it can happen. Or they don't want to ask for too much because they're uncomfortable doing that. So I think that's a really powerful thing to write it down and ask for what you want. And then to check in, like, am I being really honest here? Is this all that I want?
Ooh.
Or am I afraid to ask for more?
Mm-hmm.
And so what if I wasn't afraid and if I knew that there was like no limit and I could absolutely have all of these things, and some of them might be material and many of them will not be, right? What is it? And then just write it down. And then the work that I do is really then like peeling back the layers, looking at what are all the belief sets, what are the thought patterns, what are the ways of being, or what's the energy around how you're dealing with money and abundance that might be separating you from that. Right. And literally going back through all of the stories with the lens of not like, oh, I'm going to go get stuck in this dark hole, but I'm going to use this to point me towards the light. I'm going to look for the lesson here. Why was that experience that way? Or what did I learn from that? What do I need to learn from this that I'm going to take with me to the next place? Right. What was the lesson in that? For example, I had the experience when I was 5 years old. I was on a reduced lunch program. My family didn't make enough money to afford the full lunch cost. Everybody paid $1.10. I paid 10 cents. One day I lost my dime inside of kindergarten. And I remember the teacher made an example of me and like kind of shamed me in front of the class and like called me out. And that was a moment that I was like, I'm different. I must be poor. And so I latched on to whatever it was that she was saying and like internalized that as who I was. Mm-hmm. So the lesson for me, if I think about that story, is no, I'm in charge. And the truth is that we're all abundant. All of us were born worthy in God's eyes. Like nobody was like, oh, you're worthy, you're not worthy. It's not that way. We're all born equally worthy. So there's a powerful lesson in holding true to that, right? And really believing that truth and not letting other people's opinions or anxiety or fears become your own, right? And so that would be the lesson there. And the reframe for that would be not I'm poor and I'm different and all those things, but I'm worthy, I'm capable, I'm deserving, I'm abundant naturally, it's who I am. So going through those lessons, doing the reframe, and then we start to look at what can I actually do about this, right? How can I put this into action? How can I actually move myself forward on the plan? And with a plan, with goals, with like steps that I'm going to take. So we're not just sitting there meditating, hoping for something, but we're like building momentum and we're taking aligned action and we're listening to our intuition. We're getting guidance from our inner voice and from that part of us that's connected to that source energy. And we're actually creating it, right? We're holding faith inside of the action.
That all sounds super, super powerful. So I want to ask you then, what is your biggest piece of advice for someone who is trying to break away from the status quo and carve their own path to a life that they love?
My biggest piece of advice is to trust your inner wisdom, trust your intuition. There was some reason why you decided to do what you're doing, to step foot on the path. There was a vision that was cast for you. There was a message that you received, some sort of download of this is where I want to go. This is what I'm creating. Like trust that. In the work that I do, I work mostly with women. So I call it the abundant woman inside of each of us. This is that highest version of us that's most connected to God, that's like in the infinite field of potential, knowing that everything is possible and it's all unlimited, that always has faith, that acts with courage, that acts with our highest interests in mind. It's the part of us that's already done the thing. And if we can tap into that, you can trust in her wisdom. She's going to give you the best advice. She's going to tell you which next step to do. She's going to tell you to believe in yourself. She's going to be cheering you on. She's going to say, oh, go over here. There's support there. Read this thing, call that person, check out this opportunity, because that's how it works. Trust that that desire was meant for you, and then listen to the guidance on your way there, because it's totally available for you.
I agree with that 110%. And I really am glad that you shared that, because that is such a powerful piece to realize and choose that I have what I need now within me to move me forward, to know maybe I need more information about something, but if I think about it, then I will know who to reach out to for that information. I will know the next steps if I first pause just to listen, and I know where to go with that. So thank you for sharing that. And where can people reach out to get more of your wisdom and your space of the world?
Sure. My website is always a great place to start, alexandrataketa.com. It's my full name. And then also my Instagram is a great place. I'm always there. I love it if people send me DMs and we have conversations. I like to get to know the people who are in my world and in my community and be of service. So you definitely, if you send me a DM, it'll be me replying. That's a great place to start. Also, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Facebook under my name, all those kinds of places. So.
Okay, perfect. And you have some fun freebies on your website that I'll be sure to post a link for too, so people can
Thank you.
Check them out, because it's not just one. There's like a whole treasure trove of them on there.
Yes, I'm incredibly generous with things. And I think I always encourage people, go and consume all the freebies, listen to the meditations, take the trainings that are there, get the resources and the tools that are there. And then they'll know, am I a fit for you or not? Are you interested in this work and pursuing it? Are you called towards this? Then let's have a conversation. I think it's really good to do the work first and settle into it and feel into your body and go, hey, this feels like what I want to go do.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining me on the show today, Alexandra.
Thank you, Jenny. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Hey, wait, before you go, do you want to increase your income by $1,000 a month? If so, check out our free side hustle guide at www.fourleaflifestyle.com/money ideas. I'll pop it in the show notes for easy access.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of the Manifestation and Money podcast. If you enjoyed today's conversation and want to continue your journey to financial empowerment and creating a life you love, be sure to subscribe, rate, and leave a review.
Come follow us on Instagram at Manifestation and Money Podcast or at 4Leaf Lifestyle for more inspiration and behind the scenes content. Remember, your life is yours to live. Your financial freedom journey is as unique as you are. So hop in the driver's seat. It's time to create the life of your dreams.